My movie recollection with Vincent Cloud,
John Nemitz.
And David Lauer.
and this is the anniversary, the 100th year anniversary edition of Sherlock Jr. It's coming up. It came out April 21st, 1924. Holy shit. This might be possibly the longest or oldest movie I've ever seen.
Oh wow. Like you're not a big silent movie buff or anything?
No, I think I tried Metropolis and Nosferatu, but it was with people and they kind of lost interest. So I'm like, okay, honey, I gave your movie a shot, but whatever. Yeah.
I watched The Notebook a dozen times. You can't do
Yeah.
one thing for me.
Gee, I wonder if they're gonna end up together or not. I can't remember, quite like the protagonist. Oops. Spoilers. Anyways, I want to ask though, because John, you picked this out. Are you a big silent movie dude?
Um, it's kind of like, when I've talked about anime, like I don't like silent movies more than other movies, but if there's a good movie and it's a silent movie, then I'll enjoy it. I would say I am a Buster Keaton fan, specifically. Like I've watched all of the full-length movies he's done that he directed himself.
Yeah, and are they all like 40 minutes? Like this is like 44 minutes, something like that?
This one is on the shorter end, but this is one of my favorites of his. And like when we started doing the anniversary thing, like the first thing I did was like, okay, what if his movies are going to be exactly 100 years old soon? And then I saw this one was going to be like, oh, next year, I definitely want to talk about this.
Wow. Oh, that's cool. I just have to say the title, it could be changed.
Yeah.
I was just like Sherlock Jr. I actually thought of a good title. Uh, The Projective Detective. Come
Oh
on, it
man,
works.
where were you 100 years ago?
Twinkle in someone's eye. I don't know. What about you, Dave? Are you a big silent movie guy, or do you just don't want to talk about it
No,
to pay
I've
respect?
I've never seen a silent movie before. This is definitely the oldest movie I've ever seen. I think I've seen like 5 minutes of Nosferatu. But I think the oldest movie was probably The Wizard of Oz, um, which is so far like ahead of its time that it doesn't really seem like an old movie, you know? So
Yeah.
watching this was very strange because I'd never seen anything like it, and I was really just blown away by like how good it was.
Yeah. One thing that, before we get into the plot or anything that stands out from the way he makes movies is he really tries to cut down on title cards. So
Yes, yes, exactly.
you're not like sitting there reading the whole time. Like, you do it through visual storytelling.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I didn't like about Metropolis and Nosferatu. The title cards. I was like, God damn it. And they're up there forever because they're thinking like 100 years ago, like how long does it take the average audience to read up these cards?
Yeah.
Oh God.
And then like a lot of movies, they like spend so much time, you're just like watching the people be like, and then they show the card. It's like, okay, you don't need like I get it. They're talking to each other. Like,
Yeah, well, like they did a very good job. I especially like the villain. I felt he really did a lot with his eyes and just looks and stuff. You kind of understood exactly what he was thinking and he was plotting and stuff. Maybe better than fucking Buster Keaton. I thought he had a pretty good visual acting. Yeah.
yeah, because I think they referred to Keaton as like stone face or something
Oh
because
yeah.
like I think a big thing was he never wanted to like laugh at his own jokes and that like kind of break or whatever. So, and he came up in vaudeville or whatever doing like stage performances with his family. So he learned that like the more serious he could look and, maintain composure, the funnier that all the stuff that was happening to him would be to the audience. Maybe to the detriment of his acting on the screen then, because he's, showing so little emotion.
I personally, oh, go ahead, Dave. Wait.
I was gonna say I don't feel like it's like to the detriment of his acting. I think it like highlights his acting. The fact that he can keep a straight face and just his eyes are like the only thing that will like somewhat change, but like mostly it's just his body, his like kind of like physical movements and stuff like that. Like it's so impressive that he can do so much while just like remaining just stone faced the whole time.
Yeah, like those crazy ass stunts. Like
Yeah.
this is like Jackie Chan or something. Like he does some pretty crazy things. We could get into later on, like where he fucking hurt himself really badly. It's
Yeah.
fucking nuts.
And
Jesus
I,
Christ.
I feel like Jackie Chan has actually cited like silent movies like this as like kind of his inspiration for what he wanted to learn how to do.
Where do you fall on the Chaplin versus Keaton?
I definitely prefer Keaton. I definitely enjoy a lot of Chaplin's movies, but just like his personal life, he was kind of a creep.
Uh,
Um, like he would have like bring these young starlets to be in his movie, like teenagers, and then like start dating them and stuff. So that, and yeah, it's kind of creepy, but probably normal for the time. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember. I watched the Chaplin movie, and that's probably why I thought, oh, Chaplin is better than Keaton because he got that movie. And yeah. Uh, but yeah, I don't know if I remember that part in that Chaplin, but that was boring. It was a boring movie. I don't recommend that movie. It's disappointing. Robert Downey Jr. is good in it, and he got nominated, but the movie sucks. Yeah, all right. Well, should we talk about this movie? Should we dive right
Certainly,
in?
yeah.
Let's start
Um,
off with the proverb, right? This is important. Don't try to do two things at once and expect to do justice to both. And this is why the projective detective would have worked so much better because we have to be eventually told, like, oh, he's a projectionist and a detective. So, yeah, it's fine.
mhm. I've been
But
so
yeah,
much more primed for that.
so yeah, let's open up with the very beginning where he's reading his book, How to Be a Detective. And I love that, like, right away it's a piece of plot that happens. Like, remember he brings it out and reads it, and like the bad guy's reading it over his shoulder and stuff. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll just do that. Another thing I've realized is that this whole story wouldn't work if people couldn't tell someone was right behind them. A lot of stuff just happens to be like, oh, they're right behind you, but you don't notice. Um, the thing of note that I want to mention is the his boss shows up and he's like, "Hey, if you want to clean up crime, why don't you clean up the floor, you piece of shit?" Turns out that's Gillette. That's his assistant, the one with all the disguises later on in the movie. I had no idea. So
I didn't
like,
either.
yeah, so I didn't realize that, oh, he's his boss, but in his dream reality, he's his boss's boss. But he doesn't really take it out on him. He doesn't really kind of abuse his Gillette partner at all.
Yeah,
He might get
that's
annoyed,
impressive.
but that's about it. Um,
Yeah, so he tells him to clean up the trash, and he's doing it, and it gets stuck to his foot, and he's like walking around, it gets stuck on his hand. Then when he tries to get it off, that classic bit there. Um, he finds the dollar in the trash, and he's like so pumped about it. The woman comes up, and she's like, tells him she lost a dollar, and he asks her to describe it, and like holds up her hand. Oh, it's about yay long. Um, you know,
but again, she's looking because he's looking at the dollar and she's just peering over his back.
yeah,
A lot of
Yeah, he like
back comedy.
she's like, it's this long, and then he like looks over like,
Yeah.
he's like,
All
well, I
right.
guess she's right. It is that long.
Well, he wants to, I guess we're skipping past the motivation. He wants to buy that thing at the store, right? But he's only got $2. What he really wants to buy his girlfriend is $3, right?
Yep.
And he pulls out those two gigantic bills. They're just so perfect for movies. I love how big those things are. Um, but yeah, the whole the running thing of like, so after the lady's like, "Oh, I lost $1," and then an old lady shows up, she's like, "Oh, I lost $1." And he out of it shows that he's a good guy. He takes the dollar of his own. He's like,
Well,
"Here."
before that, even there was like the big tough guy who came up and he like gave him $1 out of fear.
Well, he didn't want it, remember? He's like, "No, I'm looking for my wallet full of
Oh
cash."
yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
And that sends Buster like searching mad frantically. So like right there, I'm like, I like this little comedy routine. Even that sticking thing on his foot, he got a little bit of mileage out of that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Because I do like physical comedy. I think Kramer could probably be in this movie if you wanted to, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely got like it's probably like a decade later, but like the Three Stooges. I watched a lot of that. So I got a lot of like vibes like that, whereas like the vaudeville type of vibes with some of the physical comedy. Um and I like the silent movie. I've never seen a silent movie like this. And like in my head, I'm like, well, it's probably better for sales if they can just release this movie in any country because you can always change the title cards on what they say for a different country and still use the same movie and anybody can enjoy it.
Oh, it's true.
And then
Uh,
like in the movie theater, it would just be like a lot of times. So sometimes there would be like a piano score or whatever that they ship along with it, and somebody just plays it live while it's happening. Sometimes there was no score, and they just play whatever they want to play, whatever they think goes good with the scene that's happening. So, in a way, now that you watch it and it has like a musical score fixed with it, like with like with the DVD or whatever that you're watching, like that wasn't the case if you were watching it back in the day.
that'd be nuts.
I wonder, is that like the origin? Have you guys ever seen like a stand-up comedy routine where there's like weird background music, like very subtly and low in the background?
No,
Not that I can think of.
no.
So, like I feel like it was like in the late 90s or something where there was laugh tracks, but then they would also have like weird like little like kind of like music in the background of like a comedy special. And it was always just like, ugh, it was horrible to me and I hated it.
Hmm.
But like in this movie, like the music I think is incredible and it's so much fun to me and it brings like so much like energy to it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I like the music. And then when they turned into Jingle Bells when he's in the snow was a nice touch. I love that.
Yeah.
Is Looney Tunes inspired from this stuff?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, because you could just, like a lot of the stunts, some of the framing, the music cues lining up with all that stuff. I'm like, this is Bugs Bunny stuff. This is great. I
Oh
like
yeah,
it.
for sure. Yep.
Did he? Okay, so he doesn't have the Chappelle, the Chaplin look with the weird cane and shit like that. But does he wear big shoes or is that just his feet? I was kind
Oh,
of wondering.
yeah, that I don't know.
I thought his feet were pretty big. I don't know. I like the little pie hat or whatever it is.
Yeah, pork
He
pie
makes it
hat.
work. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, I think like my favorite part was when well, it's a little bit later in the movie, but it's when it's like it says like rule number 5, shadow your man closely.
Oh my
And
God,
then he's just step for step behind the guy, and he's got his little hat on, and it would like fall off. And then he's just stepping behind him, and like the guy picks up like a old cigarette off the ground, like lights it, takes a puff, and then like tosses it behind him, and he's right behind him, and he catches it, and he takes a puff out of it, like, "Ah," and then he throws it, and then they're then they go to the street and there's traffic, and then all of a sudden he stops, and then they keep going again, and they're just just step for step, they're like mirroring each other, and it was my favorite sequence of the movie.
Shit.
Yeah,
Uh, we got to mention the plot of it, and it's kind of confusing because this happens like the first chunk is him as a projectionist trying to be a detective, and then after that first chunk, it's him sleeping, and it's all in his mind. So it was kind of tough to figure it out because I forgot to mention this, but like right after they show him in the theater, and they're like, "Oh, sweep this up," it does title cards and it says the girl played by the actress, the actual actress playing the girl. That is was super bizarre. Did you guys notice that?
no, I guess I didn't.
Whoa.
Like,
I saw it and I was just a little confused by it,
Yeah.
and I was like, with like the dream within the movie. I like the last movie I'd watched prior to this was Inception, which is all about dreams. So when I'm watching it and they're like, "Oh, he's having a dream and it's all in the dream," I'm like, "Okay." So I'm already thinking about dreams in movies. And then at a certain point, he had fallen asleep, and so much of the movie takes place in the dream that
right.
I'm like, wait, it was like Inception. I'm like, is he still in the dream world? Did he wake up? Because I felt like everything in this movie happened so fast that like I was trying to eat something. If I looked away from the screen, I would miss something. So it was like if I wasn't like actively watching, I was like, oh, did he wake up? Is this real life now or no? It's still a dream.
Yeah, because all the characters in the movie he's watching turn into the real life, played by the real life actors or
Right.
yeah. So that is very confusing. But it was 100 years ago, like there's a lot of things that show up, but I'm like 100 years, baby. Like you can't, it's
It's kind of like
public
the Wizard of
domain.
Oz.
When was the Wizard of Oz? I'm gonna say that was more like I don't think it was in the 20s, maybe
No, that was
40s,
30s. 30s.
30s.
I think it was 33 or
Yeah,
something.
that
Oh,
sounds right.
really? Oh, shit. Um, okay, and then so about the actual plot, the
Yeah.
bad guy
So,
shows up. Oh, go
well,
ahead.
first, so yeah, he after the whole ordeal with the trash pile and everything, he only has $1 left, I believe. So he goes to the candy store and he buys the $1 box of candy, but then he takes a Sharpie on the way and changes the one into a four, like a kid changing an F into an A or a B or whatever.
And that puts
Which,
him away.
yeah, that bites him in, later. Um, so yeah, then he meets up with the girl and um yeah, I don't remember the exact chain of events, but like um he ends up giving her a ring, and there's like some great bits there where like it's so tiny that like she's like trying to like even see it, and he pulls out it because he's a detective or an aspiring detective. He has a magnifying glass that he can use to see the tiny rock on that ring.
So did that wasn't what he bought. He bought her candy. It wasn't like a dollar ring, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was like
Like
um
even
I,
a
I
hundred
really
years
liked when
ago.
he had the I really liked when he had the magnifying glass and gives it to her, and she like looks at the ring on her finger, and then he like pulls the ring away so it like magnify it even more.
yeah,
Then he just
classic
gives up
magnifying
and
glass.
takes it. Yeah. They had the nice. I'm trying to figure out what they are though specifically, because like they're kind of like young puppy love, because like they kind of want to touch hands, but then he doesn't, and then she just kind of puts her hand back so he could touch it again and stuff. So this is very young love.
Hmm.
Possibly, are they supposed to be teenagers or what? Because they are not.
It was like almost like they're like she was being courted almost, where like she was of age to be married, and like her dad, like she was allowed to have men over to her house, her parents are there, and then so then maybe they'll hold hands, and then she's like meeting someone new, trying to decide who's interested in.
That's right, because the bad guy. Okay, so we have to. While that was happening with them, the bad guy shows up and then dips into someone's coat and takes a watch,
Hmm.
leaves, sells it at a pawn shop, receives the receipt, returns, and then he's like, "Hey, baby, I have this $4 present or something, or $3 present." And right away, she's just like, "Oh my God, I have a suitor number two." You know? Felt bad for Keaton, and Keaton's getting pissed. He's trying to make him slip on banana peels and stuff. Man, that had to be rough back in the day where like guys, several suitors would just show up. You're like, what the fuck? Um,
Yeah,
okay.
so then the guy whose watch got stolen realizes it's missing, and um, Keaton sees this as an opportunity to try out his skills, and um, decides to search everybody. I think because his book tells him to do that. And meanwhile, the guy who stole the watch slips the receipt for it into Buster's pocket. So
But how did
um,
he know to do that, John?
I don't know. How did he?
Uh,
So one of the bits that was good where they did use the title card where he's searching everybody and then he searches the guy whose watch it was. He's like, "Hey, I'm the fellow who lost the watch."
oh my gosh. Um, so yeah, they eventually he gets searched. They find the receipt and then also the gift. That bad guy takes the gift. Is like, oh, see, this was not tampered with. It's clearly four.
Yeah. $4. That's the exact amount of this gift. Yeah.
Man, that guy's mind works quick. In a pinch, holy shit.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, sorry, you gotta leave. I don't want you to see be here anymore. And the girl takes the ring, gives it back to Buster Keaton. Poor guy.
Yeah.
Uh, but now this is the part where shadow your man close and stuff. And that is such a good little close chase. I enjoy that a lot. But we have to get to the part where he follows him to the train and then he tries to act all casual, like, what? I'm just living in this train. And he gets locked in there and it pops out the top. And that was really cool, him jumping from car to car. But this is the stunt that hurt him, that he grabs some of that water pipe. And I guess they didn't test how powerful the water was going to be. So he's just blasted off and he cranks his neck. Like, I don't know if they're trying to say it was really badly hurt.
Yeah, it like fractured like a bone. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like that affected him for a long time throughout his life. Like that was like the one of the bigger accidents that he had, and it was during this movie. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah, and I think at the time it was like, oh, I had really bad headaches for a couple of weeks or something like that. Like, didn't think that much about it, but yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that part was wild when when I was first watching it. I thought it was wild because I'm like, whoa! I'm like, this is like that was like the first like big special effect, like, or I don't know, it's stunt that happens in the movie, and then it like that was just like the kickoff for like the second half of the movie where we get tons of stunts.
Hmm.
so the bad guy gets away, and those workers chase after him and stuff. So it says, oh, he's all wet as a detective, so he has to go and work at his projectionist. So he heads over there. But in the meantime, we're going to see Catherine or the girl go to the pawn store and say, "Hey, who sold sold you that watch?" And while he's describing the bad guy just happens to be right outside the store. And again, these moments in this movie where like he doesn't know he's being looked at. It's all about no one sees anything behind them in this goddamn movie. What a carefree time 100 years ago.
People hadn't realized that someone could be behind you yet. They lacked object permanence. I don't see them. They don't exist.
Okay, so the movie starts to play. It's called Hearts and Pearls. And Buster falls asleep, and soon the characters on it's the same plot. That's again kind of confusing. It's about stealing jewels or something in this one, but it's the same guy who stole, and then also there's a guy he's working with, and he's the worker of the father in the other storyline. Oh my God, so confusing. Um,
Yeah, and then like there's then like a kind of a ghostly double of the projectionist himself. And I liked where he wasn't wearing the hat and he like picked up the hat, but it like remained in like
yeah,
in the firmament, and then but he also had a copy of it then.
is that astral projection making the title work even more?
Okay, well, it's a good title then. Forget it.
Okay, so this is an awesome fucking scene. This is where he goes into the theater, and it's where it's shot from. It's great because he starts up in, kind of up in the stairs, and he shows sitting in another seat, getting closer and closer to the screen, and until finally he sees the bad guy and his girlfriend fighting, and he just jumps into the screen just to get pushed back out. But that was so cool that I didn't know was the inspiration for Last Action Hero. You guys ever see that movie?
No, but I literally have a DVD of it here that I'm about to watch it this week.
Holy shit. That's
Wow.
awesome. Don't listen to the haters. Just watch the movie, make your own decision. You know what I mean? Because people, yeah, they
I
give
mean,
it a hard time.
I've been a McTiernan fan so far, so
Yeah,
uh,
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's the whole jumping into the screen and shit. That's cool by itself. Didn't realize it happened 100 years ago.
Yeah, and like it's pretty cool how they did it, where it was just like a live set behind a wall, but they lit it in such a way that just made it look like it was projected on a screen, and so he could just jump into it.
That was so sweet. Okay, so let's talk about the part where he tries to get there. He's at first outside the house, but then it changes scenery. That was so much fun. I love that.
And now he's in the desert, and now he's wherever. What was a very sporadic movie, whatever they were watching, where
Oh
you
yeah.
know.
That's a good point. I figured because he's in there, he's affecting the movie. Because isn't he trying to catch them or something? I don't know. I
Oh
bought it.
yeah,
I
it's
bought
like
it.
when there's a glitch in the system and it
Yeah.
affects the system itself.
That
I,
makes sense. Like if he thinks of snow, then suddenly he's in a snowbank, you know? By that. I didn't think of that. But yeah, I really love the special effects of it, where it was like I was trying to decide. I'm like, was this like a different film that was happening there? But then it was like, well, no, this had to have been happening because he like jumped into it. There's no way they couldn't CGI it. But then, all of a sudden there's just like a cut and they, and take out a frame, and then all of a sudden he's somewhere different, and you're like, oh, it was just I don't know. It was really cool effects.
Yeah, and it definitely just that felt very Looney Tunesy to me as well. Like, where he goes to sit down on a rock and then all of a sudden the rock is gone because it's a different scene and that's
the lion's den was done really good because they got the shadows right on him.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that was really impressive. I was thinking like he could be there, but I'm not sure. I don't think he was, but it was just really well done. Let's see here. So in the movie, they finally, they're like, "Oh my God, someone stole my stuff," and it's the bad guy and his henchmen. So they call Sherlock Jr. finally, and he shows up. And in this sequence, we'll just discuss like he has to avoid these things: the explosive 13 uh ball pool ball, the axe chair. You sit in the
Yeah,
chair, the
that
axe comes
triggers the
down,
falling axe. Yeah.
and then the poison drink. We could yeah, this whole segment reminded me of a an old board game called 13 Dead End Drive. You guys ever play that?
No, never heard of that one.
It's
No.
basically Clue meets Mousetrap, except you don't get caught in a mousetrap, you die. Like the bookshelves fall on you or something like that. You could be killed by anything in this room, and they're all these awesome three-dimensional things. Oh, it's such an amazing. It's a future love, possibly.
I really
Uh,
loved the actor that played the butler. He was my favorite supporting actor in the movie. Like his eyes, I don't. He reminded me of like something from like the Munsters or something. I don't know. I just loved him. It's just his facial expression because he's playing with Buster Keaton, who has no facial expression, and he and the butler has all the facial expressions. So like, Buster Keaton's about to sit on the chair, but then he squats down, but then he pauses, and then but like the butler's all like waiting for it. Then he's all like excited, like it's gonna happen, but then it doesn't happen. And then he's like trying to act like nothing's going on. And then like, oh, he's about to sit again. He's like, oh, oh. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, and then like every time he's about to like the pool shooting scene, it's just great. Um like where he's describing like the shots that are happening, like okay, yeah. All right, now it's gonna happen. And then he's like it curved around it or went over it or whatever, just making all the motions of what he did with the pool shot.
oh, I love it when he's trying to save the bad guy. He just finally just sticks his finger in his drink so he doesn't drink it. He's like, "There's something in your drink." Oh my God. Okay, so I have to when he's like, oh, hey, these balls explode, I'll show you. He tosses it in the backyard of this really nice house. And then it looks like a huge explosion. And I'm like, oh, so nobody hears in this movie? Like, is that the reality of this silent movie within a movie? Oh my God. It was nuts.
Yeah. And then the guy, like, he takes the other one and he like tosses it in the air and catches it. And he's like, no, no, don't do that. And he's like, oh yeah, right. Like I forgot it's gonna explode. Like duh.
You're right to point that dude out, his expressions, and he's rightfully cast as like the gross thug dude, but it's very disturbing near the end where he has the girl captured and he undoes his fucking bow tie. You're like, gross. It's very darkly implied that she was about to get raped. Fucking nuts. Thank God it doesn't happen. Awesome pool shots, 100 years ago, they still impress.
Yeah.
Okay, so shows up. Oh, I have to. So when he shows up, there's the bad guy, there's the girl, and then there's someone else. But Sherlock Jr. shows up and just stares them down right in front of their faces, just to see like guilt or whatever. I'm like, this is a very unusual detective. But then
Well,
my what?
I was just saying, he's still learning.
That's like okay, but the funniest thing out of the title cards, he goes, they go up to the room where the things were stolen, and he's like, "No, you don't have to explain to me. This is a simple case for me." It's like you don't even you don't even know what you're looking for. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there was. Oh, did I write it down? Like there was a title card where it said like he's completely with the exception of the guilty party and how it happened, he's completely solved the case or something like that.
Yes,
Yeah, that was
yes.
my favorite line to read. the exception of finding the object or identifying the guilty party.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Okay, so we are introduced to his assistant Gillette, who I love because this is like the last third of the movie now. But Gillette's gonna keep showing up in disguise, and eventually Keaton will just be annoyed. He's like, "Oh God, it's you again," even though he's constantly helping him. I just thought it was a cool little addition of a character. I just really enjoyed Gillette. Um, Weird part though, because they're in his office or whatever, and then he walks through the mirror, right? Do you remember that?
Hmm.
So this was like needlessly surreal. Maybe it's just to remind people that even though it says the next day, it's the next day in the movie, I guess. And then after that, he opens the door and he's on the railroad tracks. That was a weird shot too. Surreal. I bet what
Dreamlike.
yeah. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I bet Michael Gondry liked this movie. Okay, so so this is a cool ass stunt. He's trying to track the bad guy, and he eventually gets locked up on the building. So this stunt,
Yeah.
man, this looked cool. Um,
Do you
yeah,
want to
because
describe it?
yeah. Well, what is it though? What is that thing called? A railroad divider? What is that called?
Yeah, like the do not cross kind of arm thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. But yeah, so that's basically pointing up and he grabs the top of it and then it pivots down to its, do not cross position, but he like lands in the car.
Yes. Again, right behind the man he's tracking.
Yep. Who knows that there's no world behind him? Only what's in front of him exists.
That was the mentality in the 20s. And I'm sure we're gonna go back to that, thanks to TikTok and shit. I don't know.
All this
Fucking
So
Gen
I
Z
wonder if
slang.
like is it like the origin of like them doing like stage acting where you're on stage and there's someone behind you, but like the lights are dimmed so that person like the audience sees them but the lights are dim so the person who's in front of like the stage in the light like they don't know that they're there until like the light illuminates on them and then they're like oh okay then they acknowledge that they're actually there but it's like in film like mode where it's like oh they're behind them so you just can't see them you don't know they're there.
Or the comedy trope where you're like bad mouthing someone, and then you're like, "Oh, he's right behind me, isn't he?"
there was one. It was Workaholics. They did a nice spin on that joke where Adam is hospitalized and he's talking shit about some actor, and he's walks into the room and they're like, "Shh, Adam." He's like, "He's right behind me." You're like, "No, he's actually right in front of you." That was good. Okay, so the bad guy shows up at the hideout where all his goons are there, and I love this little stunt and the way this is done because they take the dress. Gillette, accidentally gets hit in the head, but he's like, "No, it's a me, it's a me." But they take this dress in this round suitcase and they just know what's going to happen. They place it on the window, and but then they make the wall. It's shot from the outside, but they make that wall disappear so you could see
Oh
inside that
yeah, yeah, that's
building.
right.
So good. I'm kind of curious how they did that. Do you think it was like a stage house and then they literally took the part out? You
It
know?
must have been, yeah, because I mean, it's all practical effects. So,
It was trippy when I watched it because it was like it was a building and then all of a sudden I could see inside and I was like wait what and then I watched it again and I was like oh okay I just thought like I miss saw it or like I wasn't looking at it right I was like oh maybe you can see through there.
But that pays off perfectly because you see him with the wall gun leap into that window and then through that dress suitcase thing out with a dress on. all done in live time. The thugs run out and they just see this old woman walk by. It was so well done. Oh my gosh. There was plenty of times in this movie where I just wanted to like cheer, like, dude, that was awesome, you know? Okay, so then they chase him some more. I have a few things written down, but oh, remember there's a person in a cage and he's like, "Who is that?" Oh, that's a detective. When he dies, we'll
Oh
put you
yeah.
in there.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
right.
fucked up.
Yeah.
I also want to know where he was in terms of that house because with the wall being gone, there wasn't like where is there's a flaw 100 years from now. I caught it. They didn't show that detective in a cage.
Oh yeah, you're right. Roasted.
Uh
So yeah, I don't know if there's more you wanted to say that happened before, but then the suitcase trick.
yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. Gillette
Okay.
again, right?
Yep. So he knows he's gonna have to run away from them again. So yeah, Gillette's standing in front of a fence with a suitcase, and um, they come after him, and he runs towards him. Suitcase is open. He jumps through the suitcase and through the fence somehow, and then um, Gillette, like drops it and like walks away, and the fence is visibly there.
So well done. Did you guys look into any how they do any of this stuff? Or do you guys not like to ruin it for yourselves?
It's not that I don't want to ruin it. I'm like interested to know how it works, but I didn't look into it. Like I guess I'm not against learning it, but I didn't do the work.
Because it's
It
kind of like
reminded me
magic
of like
tricks.
exactly magic tricks and illusions. That's exactly what I thought. Where I was like, okay, that's like I felt like that was like something they would do in like a stage show, like in front of an audience. But they're like, oh, it's such a good trick. We got to do it for a movie.
That's exactly right, dude. He's like, there's an old trick that we would do in vaudeville. And I read how they did it. You guys want to know or live in
Yeah,
Yeah.
bliss?
spill the
Okay,
beans.
so Gillette is, it's a fake dress, or he's not in a dress there. He's actually lying down vertically. So he's kind of up in the air and he's just kind of like this, kind of lying on something. And then there's the dress, there's a hole through it. So Keaton could jump through that. But as soon as he does that, that's when Gillette lowers down. So his body is vertical again. And then he could walk away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Um, okay. Oh, and then finally, so this is a big chunk of the movie where Gillette picks him up. He's on like a motorbike, and Buster is on the I don't know, what would you call it? The
Handlebars.
basket, the handlebars. Yeah. And he's driving him. But then he looks, he's like, "Who are you?" Oh, it's Gillette again. He just gets he's so over the disguises. It was like one of my favorite parts of Buster's just kind of face. He was just like, I don't care, you know. But yeah, he's gonna drive off. Eventually, Gillette gets fallen off, so it's just Buster on this motorbike. So if you guys want to mention any of those parts, that was pretty
Yeah, I
sweet.
thought of this as him like Mr. Magooing himself on the front of a motorbike. He's completely oblivious that Gillette is gone. So he's like making comments about like, oh, turn left up here, or I don't remember what he says, but he's like, like clearly thinks that this is still being steered um by somebody. Um was it he like there's like a broken bridge, but these two trucks happen to be driving underneath it at the right time, and he goes over the top of the trucks, that kind of stuff.
This one thing was like I wouldn't have done that, where he's driving past these ditch diggers and they just throw dirt in his face while he's driving by. That was, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. I would have cut that. That's almost like Johnny Knoxville sort of thing. Like that would be his twist on it. Oh, and then they drive through a stag party. What is a stag? Is that like a bachelor party?
Yeah, it's
What
like a
is?
yeah, bachelor party.
Wow. We never tugged, played tug of war, Dave. What's up with that?
Yeah, what the heck, man? You should have thrown me a better party.
I was not the best man. Oh,
Clearly.
okay. So yeah. So this is so good. Okay, so he's driving, and this is the one time, well, there's two times where they use a model, and it's so adorable. Oh my God. He's driving on the bike, and then the bridge collapses forward. So he's able to land and keep going. But it was it was a little model. This is funny. Um, oh, okay. So yeah, he still thinks Gillette's with him, and they're on the road, and there's this big tractor, but they end up
Oh
going
yeah.
right underneath it. And that was so cool because I've seen tractors like that, and I've always been like, oh, that would be cool to go underneath that. So to see that stunt was so awesome 100 years ago. But then he says, that's what makes it funny is like right after that, there's a title card, and he's like, I never thought you'd make it. He's telling that to
Yeah.
Gillette.
Yeah, like that's crazy. I never would have done that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, and then a sweet shot. I don't know. I have my theories how they do it, but he's in profile and you could see the train coming down the track and right like super close he passes before the train goes by. It might have been fast forwarded just a little bit. I think they still did the stunt and it was, how slow can you get a train to go, you know? But I think they just sped it up just a little bit. But I still find that fucking stunt impressive and well shot too. Okay, so okay, so we're gonna get to the final confrontation basically. He's gonna run into the girl's spot because what's his name? The creepo undid his bow tie. Like, oh, gross. Like, we don't need that in this movie. But Buster shows up. He leaps through the window, feet first, kicks the bad
Oh
guy, and
yeah,
the
that's right. I forgot about
fucking
yeah.
awesome, man. Like, that's Jackie Chan right there, And the bad guy like fucking goes through the wall. It was so cool. But yeah, now this is where the thugs arrive. Buster and her take their car. Now they're off to a chase. They use the explosive 13 ball. That was cool. That was a cool explosion. They hit the brakes, and now the car detaches from the wheels and lands on the water, which
Yeah.
I just have to describe as like so cool. Like it like touched my imagination floating on a thing after like that whole stunt was cool. He's got his girl. They open up the convertible
Yeah, use
part.
it as a sail.
Yes. That was so awesome. It was like something out of my dreams or something. It was such a cool image. Um, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
and
and
then
then barely make it to the opposite shore before it sinks completely. And
Yeah, I love that part when they did the convertible up into the sail because I was like, oh, now he's just gonna captain the ship and go down river. And I really thought it was gonna go somewhere with that, but then it was like, nope, like immediately see it's still sinking. It's just like
Buster Keaton, he grabs the girl and he's swimming with one arm, and then shows him waking up. He's in the projection room,
yeah, I love
and
that. Just the way he's like flailing around in the projection room.
well, it's just like the movie Inception, like in a dream, in order to like get the kickback into the real world, once you hit water, it wakes you up.
oh my
And it
god,
was
Yeah, Chris
just it
Nolan,
all
were
ties
you a
in.
fan of this movie?
oh my gosh. Well, he did all that physical, like moving the hallway, that sort of stunt.
Hmm.
There's got to be some influence. So, okay, so Buster, he wakes up. The girl shows up. She's like, "We made a terrible mistake," and
Yeah, like
does
through no actual detective work on his part.
yeah. Okay, so this is the ending part where he's looking through I love this shot though of him looking through the window.
the
Yeah.
projection window.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so well put. And he's watching the movie and he's reenacting that with her.
Yeah, he's like learning from the guy on the screen how to talk to the girl.
And again, it's sweet because they are so young. They're very timid and shy around each other still, like, oh, I remember
Yeah.
that.
And like, yeah, because the movie actor gives like this big deep kiss, and then he just gives her like a little peck.
Yeah. That was great. Um, yeah, as I also have to mention, I wanted to work in a theater before, now I don't. I'm like, oh God, that'd be terrible. But back in the day, I'm like, man, you run the projection, be a projective detective. I would totally be that.
What
So
would your how-to book be that you would be reading while you're projecting movies?
how to win friends and influence people, which is an actual book, by the way.
Yeah, I've
Um,
read it. It's pretty good.
dude, I was gonna bring that up for a few. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I just might. Okay.
do it.
I'm in good hands. All right. So not only did I want to work at the theater doing that, but I remember having those relationships where you're like, oh my gosh, you're so whatever, and we're into each other, but it's puppy love and shit. This is all new. So I love that. I love that he's looking at the movie for inspiration, which I did as well. I advise people not to do that. Just play it off or let it happen organically.
All right. Hold on. Let me look at my notebook. Lean in for a kiss. Okay,
Yeah.
check.
Meanwhile, she's looking at your book, but you don't notice because she's behind you. Yeah, would you guys? What,
Oh,
I just love this.
so the last thing was within the movie, then it like jumps forward in time, and the couple has like all these babies now, and then all of a sudden like Buster's expression just changes, like, oh, I'm not signing up for that.
We kind of scratched his head, almost like he's so naive. He's like,
Yeah.
how the heck? And that was the end. Like, I want to watch more of his stuff. Would you? Are there other ones you would recommend first?
The both of the juniors are good. Like the Steamboat Bill Jr. is really good. Um, the what's it called? The one with the train. The General
Oh,
is
okay.
that one's actually on like the AFI Top 100 list, so it's maybe his most critically acclaimed, where he's on the wrong side of the Civil War.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
it was interesting because like they were basically the thought at the time was like, oh, nobody would like it if he was fighting for the Union.
I was going to
Like
ask, like, wait, whose point of view the wrong side of the war?
yeah, so like he's in the Confederate Army because like audiences at the time found them more sympathetic, apparently.
Wow.
Like otherwise you're just beating up on the losers or whatever. I don't know.
Well,
Um, yeah, let me pull up the list here.
well, let me ask in the meantime, Dave, are you a Buster Keaton person? Are you going to try and check out his other work?
Yeah, I would. I definitely. I was reading on like Wikipedia. They mentioned The General was a really good one, so I want to see that. Um, I really want to watch. Also, what's his name? Charlie Chaplin. The dictator, the greatest dictator, or something.
Oh, right, right.
Like I
Yeah,
remember like reading about that movie, and like I've seen like this famous speech at the end of the movie, but like watching this makes me want to watch that entire movie.
yeah. There, I mean, Chaplin has some great movies. The Great Dictator, Modern Times, um, City Lights. Is that one? For
Yeah.
Buster Keaton, I really liked Seven Chances. It's a movie where like I don't remember exactly it, but the deal was he had to like find a bride within some amount of time or whatever, and there were like seven different women or whatever, um, that he was trying to woo. Um,
Oh my
The
God.
cameraman is really good. Um, yeah.
Sweet. All right.
Are
Well,
all of his
oh my
movies
God.
silent movies?
I think so. I think he had like a really off-putting voice or something, actually.
I think
I've
I heard
heard.
his voice. Isn't it
Yeah.
kind of like gravelly and real deep? Like, this is how we made the movie. You're like, whoa, that is
Yeah.
not how I thought you'd sound.
Yeah,
But I mean,
exactly.
yeah. I read a little bit into his Wikipedia. They're like, after the 30s, he fell into ruin. His wife took all his shit. And I'm like, oh no. And he's like, and he fell into alcoholism. I'm like, ah, fuck. But apparently he came back years later, to much acclaim. So that's
Yeah.
good.
It said that he signed a big movie deal with MGM Studios, but then they had creative control over his movies, and he hated like losing his creative control, and that like kind of led to his downward spiral.
Oh man. But like I said, he came back. That was the main thing because I was like, of course, this man who gave us so much joy ended up in ruins for some reason. But no, he came back. Yeah. Can we say
Yay.
that about Chaplin? Sick fuck. Oh my God. I don't remember the underage stuff in that Chaplin movie, but I don't remember a lot.
Yeah, I never watched the movie. I don't know if they even cover that in there.
Uh, yeah. Well, hey, that
But
was
yeah, there's the other Harold Lloyd, I think, is the other big um silent movie comedy guy that's sometimes mentioned along with those two.
he's
So he
definitely the Ross Perot
yeah.
of
So he's the one like hanging from a clock. I don't know if you've probably seen
Yeah.
that image. Yeah.
Did Futurama kind of do a thing with that?
Yeah.
The
They did a thing with
digital?
a digital clock. Yeah, that was hilarious.
All right. Well, hey, that was the movie 100 years ago. That's pretty sweet. I'm sure it'll be good 100 years from now. Yeah, that was my movie recollection. Like,
Don't forget
subscribe,
to
comment.
plug the website.
Yes, go to mymovierecollection.com for all your movie recollection needs. And this was Vincent Cloud.
John Nemitz.
And David Lauer.